So, hello everybody, good morning. It's my great pleasure to welcome you on the third episode of our Frogeex Green Tech Lives. Today we have again Filip Kurek with us from Bioseptik. Filip is specialized in using or application of bacteria to improve the conditions or to manage waste or toxic substances in different environments. And today we have the connection to hobby, to aquascaping, to aqua management, and also to pets, to animals keeping, because you can improve their conditions and eventually also their health. We're going to learn about that more later when applying bacteria. So without further ado, I would like to invite Filip to share some knowledge, share some know-how on how to use bacteria in this sphere. And then let's have a discussion or questions. If you would have anything, we're streaming on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can drop the comments over there. We're gonna see them, or just let us. Yeah. So with this, I would hand over to Filip if you would like to share what is in for us today.
Hello, thank you for having me here today. Again, it's the third time if I'm correct. So we are in our third session, let's call it session. And today we'll be talking about bioremediation and hobby. And I'll talk a little bit about how every hobby starts, every business starts as a hobby, not on the opposite. So I'll try to present my presentation. I'll show you whatever I have.
Yes, it's
And
always
yeah,
great when people can
let's
also
start.
see and follow also a little bit more the details that you're explaining. So always great to have a visual with that.
Yes, yes. So let me know, please, if you can see whatever I'm sharing now. The presentation is a PDF format today, so it's a little bit different maybe than typically, but yeah, really nice. So can you see whatever I'm sharing now?
Yes, we see it.
Yes?
Yes, it should be visible now, please.
Okay, so let's start then if we can see it. Yeah, so today we're talking about bioremediation and hobby. So I will talk about a few things and mainly aquaristics, aquascaping, and aquaculture. So these are 3 points that I will focus on today. And as I said before, every business starts as a hobby. At least for me, it started like that. I think a lot of people do it the same way. So I'll start with aquaristics first, as this is the first point that I have started with in my career, let's call it. And for me, and in general, the description of aquaristics is that it's a practice of keeping and caring for aquatic animals in a controlled environment. We can see two types of environment here, or two types of aquariums. On the right side, where I have my mouse, you can see the saltwater aquarium or sea aquarium. This is a giant, huge size aquarium. And on the left side, we can see some small tabletop aquariums. These are typically freshwater. As for saltwater aquariums, we can keep them in a smaller size. We can keep fish in a very small aquariums. Some coral reefs as well, but typically we need larger sizes, larger proportions, and some space, a lot of control of the environment and stuff. But it sounds pretty difficult to have a saltwater aquarium, but it might not be that difficult as it is described. At least I've heard about people who say it's very easy to do. And on the left side, where we have these freshwater aquariums, we can see a little bit of aquascape. So aquascape is the next part, and aquascaping is a craft or a skill, and is a skill of arranging aquatic plants as well as rock stones, caveworks, whatever, some wood and some parts of, for example, sand and plants into aesthetically pleasing manner. We typically make a real place in a miniature form to resemble something that we typically know. Either it's a mountain range or forest or something like that, but it's submerged in water. The definition of aquascape is my own definition. This is not something you can find on the internet. But what you can find is that it's made of living materials, so it's mostly living. Yeah, everything Old trees, for example, I will go back to the previous slide. The trees we can see here on the left side, these are not small trees that grow underwater. These are some driftwood parts, some branches that are overgrown with moss. It's cut into some shape and it looks like a tree, for example. Here we can see a reef. We have some fish there, grass, some small moss cover or some small cover on the bottom, and yeah, it can look like anything. For example, I very much enjoy making and having lost world aquariums. I will try to find some picture for this later because I don't have it in presentation. Lost world looks mostly like Asian style aquarium with head of Buddha that looks like a old statue that's halfway or partially broken, and it's overgrown with anything you can grow there. There's a lot of fish, some shrimps, snails, a lot of plants that have leaves, branches, grass, some floating plants as well. Everything is there. It looks pretty full when you look at it. So I try to look for something. Next, I have aquaculture or aquaculture. That's a combination of what we previously had. It's not oriented on visual, but it's oriented on some result or outcome mostly. And we can find some definitions that it's a cultivation of aquatic organisms in controlled aquatic environment for any commercial, recreational, or public purpose. So either we are growing fish to sell them, or we are growing plants to sell them as part of future aquascapes or aquariums. But we can also consider part of aquaculture the process that is called aquaponics or hydroponics. Here we talk about aquaponics as we talk about living organisms mostly. Hydroponics is growing of plants in the water without fish. So what we use as a food source for the plant is mostly fertilizer. That's most probably artificial, but it can be organic as well. But it still is more technical, mechanical stuff for me. It's not, or I can call it artificial. This is not very natural. So aquaponics is basically the same thing, but as a food for plants, we are using fish waste. For fish waste, we are feeding the fish, so they eat in some kind of habitat, and all the water that is circulating through the system is going for the plants and their growth. Then those plants are harvested for either food or some source of something, whatever it might be. And to make these systems work, we need to use some bioremediation. Typically, we are using filtration media or filtration systems. We can see moving filtration media on the left side here. They are covered with biomass or the bacteria. And typically, filtration media are things that make space for living organisms, mostly bacteria, that clean the water. So we basically leave the nature to solve the problems as we can. Is we typically call them problems. They are not that much of problems for nature itself. That are caused by the nature again. So nature can solve everything it does, and we just enhancing those processes. We're trying to make them better, make them more efficient, make better space for nature to work itself and control it in some way or to a certain degree, so we get the solution we want. I would like to say that I work in this field for years, like 8 years, maybe more. That's the time I've spent on bioremediation, on using of natural solutions for problems caused by human. And we are in the basics of anything. We barely understand what's happening there, even though we know what kind of bacteria we are using, what they do, or what are some of the processes they do. We know so little that if nature could, laugh at us, then it will definitely laugh at us. Because that's just it's guessing mostly. We know these things work. We know they get the result we want to get, but to describe the process itself and to understand the process, it will take many lifetimes. This is the bioremediation in different way for different purpose was used in Slovakia since year 700, and it was used for mining of precious metals with sludge water. People had no idea what they're doing, but it worked. They put sludge into the mine, they put it out, they harvested the sludge water again, and after they heated it for a temperature that was sufficient, they got metals from that. So that's very similar to whatever we do now. We know much more about it. We know how chemistry works behind it. We know how biology works behind it. We know that it takes time. It takes some measures, but we barely understand the real process that is behind it and how those processes are connected. But what we can achieve now with the little understanding we have, I'm saying little, but it's really a lot. It's too many books and hundreds of years of trials and fails and successes. So whatever we can do now with the most modern systems that we can offer is increased effectivity of the process, optimization of the process, and stability of the process. These are three main points. We can optimize processes to achieve whatever we need. We can increase the effectivity of the process, so we make it work better with a smaller, for example, place or smaller use of resources like plastic for media or whatever. And we can achieve stability of the process. That's very important because stable process allows you to be prepared for future challenges. Those challenges are a matter of time. They will come. There will be either more fish, some change in the water structure, for example, in the lake, ocean, or wherever, or whatever we use as a source of water. And to be prepared at least partially is very good. The change might be pretty drastic, and something will change in a way that we cannot handle it for some period of time, but we should be able to tackle it at least somehow and gain time to solve the problem. How much it is, we will see. But yeah, we just gaining time. That's what we can do. We are reducing the footprint. That's what I said before. That we are using less materials, maybe better kind of material, smaller shape of stuff. We're just changing those things to work better, to use less space, and gain space for bacteria to grow and work better. That's what we can do. We can just make space for nature, and it will just do their thing. Yeah, so that its smaller spaces are very important, at least at the present, and in future they will be even more important as the population of humanity is growing and the space is still the same, but we just take more of it, and we'll need to take much more of it in future. And we are creating systems for better future that connects all of the mentioned before to create a long-lasting system that will help you ensure sustainability of your business. Sustainable business is again connected to stability of processes, effectivity of processes, their optimization that needs to be optimized every time as often as possible, and optimize it more and more and more. And to make it small makes sure that you will operate in your area for a longer time. Maybe you'll use less water, maybe the water will be in bigger demand in some time, or there will be smaller resource. With smaller place and small footprint, you can work for a longer time. This ensures the sustainability of your business. You just can work, and you don't have to think of relocation or outsourcing or whatever it might be. Final part that I would like to mention is that we are trying to create a stable ecosystem that brings complex solution to complex problems. The more complex the system we create, the more complex problems we can look at and we can try to solve them. With our know-how and products, we are trying to bring stability, efficiency to processes that are not stable under normal circumstances, which means that if we make a stable process, in nature, it typically is not so stable. We can create the environment. For example, in here, this is my diploma thesis from school. It's an aquaponic farm. I have some fish there. I have some floating or moving media that create a space for bacteria. Otherwise, those bacteria would be in much lower count because we couldn't fit them there so much into the, into just aquarium, so they can live here. We can show the space where they are, and we can show the flow of water because the water goes through the pump down here up to the top, circulates through the system, and goes back to the aquarium. If the water flow was for the full area, it will just randomly flow somewhere into the aquarium. Now we can show it, we can put the used water back into the aquarium where we want it, where we have the most bacteria, to clean the water or treat it again, treat it how we want, and put it back into the water flow so it gets dirtier again, and we recycle the water. We can. This is the control in the real life. This is what I'm talking about. To take control of something is just to make some adjustment, make these water flows, whatever simple stuff it is there, to make it work better. These adjustments or these changes are not drastic, but they can make a huge difference. So that's the most important part of all the work we're doing here. And that would be all from my side, what it takes about presentation. And now we can focus on your questions or whatever you are interested in and try to answer them.
Super. Thank you so much, Philip. Now you started with this large picture of what the bioremediation, what bacteria can do in the aquatic. I hope I pronounce it correctly. Environment. And now back to our focus topic for today, when we were talking about pets, animal care. Having fish in the aquarium. I mean, we are having aquariums also personally for 7 years now. Algae is always a problem. You get lured into the topic with it's going to be easy and you're going to have fun, and then you end up with cleaning the water all the time. So what is the role of bacteria? We saw some images, we saw some application. Maybe we can go, because we have 10 minutes left, into some kind of fire question and answer fire for you. So you can share with us, for those people that are either in keeping animals, having pets, having aquariums, that they can leverage most, from the expertise that you have in this field. So I would start with that now. Are you mentally ready?
Okay. Yes. So, what should I answer first?
Yes. So regarding aquariums, so is there any specific bacteria that you would recommend for aquariums in general?
Okay, so we have our aquarium products, so we definitely promote whatever we sell. I know my products, I know how they work, I know whatever we can achieve and we cannot achieve with them. And what it takes about other products, I'm not here to challenge or judge anyone else. Everyone has their own stuff there, whatever they use for something. There's too much chemicals in many products, I would say. It's fast solution or fast symptom solution, typically in lakes mostly, as lakes and ponds are also part of hobby. I was partially talking about it today, mostly aquaristics, aquascaping, but yeah, it's all connected to lakes and ponds. The problem with that, the problem of wastewater is waste. The problem of having a fish tank is fish, which means that fish is producing the waste that we have there, and that's causing the algae boom. Because if there is too much food, if the waste is source of food, then we get too much algae there, because the nature just grows itself and using whatever it can. So for that, I will recommend pick some high quality bacteria that can do whatever it should do, as many branches of bacteria as possible to tackle whatever we can. If they can aerate with the water, which is typically our part of business, we can do this with our products. No one else is doing that at the present, I would say, and it helps drastically to clean the water. So keeping it somehow. And when you talked about how you have aquariums and fish tanks and whatever, how much enthusiasm it gets when you start with that. I have some background of aquarium today to make it look more thematic. You should know how many fish you can sustain in your aquarium to make it work basically, and that's something they will not tell you in the shop. They want to sell you fish, they want to sell you plants, they want to sell you whatever they can. They
Mhm.
don't talk about it, and you should count it. There are some methods counting how much fish you can maintain in 1 liter, or let's say 1 gallon of aquarium,
Mhm.
or for the size. I don't know the counts now, but typically you keep not too much fish or not too many, and keep a lot of plants there, so you can maintain it more easily. The waste will be used by plants, so they will grow. There will never be not enough waste or not enough nutrition. That mm, is not the case in 99.9% of
Mhm. Mhm.
examples we deal with. It. So
Mhm. And also for everybody on the call, watching the replay or whatsoever, there is always the opportunity to reach out to Philip. You have this little banner. You will find him definitely on Frogeex. So if you would have any doubts, any question, there is a free consultation available for you. So just, reach out to him. I highly recommend that. Besides that, you get some definitely information on the products that are available around bacteria, either for your home or for the business, or, for whatever sphere actually you are, as we have a wide range of topics available. So I understood there are these products, there are no specific types or high quality. We'll go into that maybe later. Now, are there any other applications? We were talking maybe about different animals, keeping animals. What is the range of like animal keeping, pet, where you can apply it? It's like fish. What else is there?
we had applications with turtles, with these are mostly aquatic, yeah, aquatic animals. What I'm talking about now, so fish, lake, pond, aquarium, aquaculture, can be aquaponic farm. Doesn't matter what size. If it's domestic, like I showed you in my presentation, some aquarium that I built, or it is some industrial level of aquaponic farming. But then we can use it again for beddings that I was talking about in my first presentation when we talked about farming. So beddings either for parrots, for budgerigar birds, whatever there is. Some pigeons may be out there, chicken, anything. This is mostly farming, but sometimes it's a hobby. I have customers who had cupcake pigs, for example, in their rooms. They use the cupcake pig is this big, to show it is 2 centimeters. It's a pig, normal pig, uh, pink or whatever color. Uh, this customer had in her flat or house. She just lives with them. It's a pet. It's a small pet, and she was using some kind of bedding there that I advised. It was working perfectly, yeah, because they jump from the bedding to the bed or wherever. We need to keep it clean so nothing gets outside of it, or if that something is there, they will buff in the bedding, so they will clean themselves somehow. If the bedding is dirty, of course they get dirty as well. So if we clean it as clean as possible, that's fine. But we don't want to throw it away every day, so we just use the bacteria to eat out the dust, the whatever, the feces, anything that is there. Try to clean it, yeah, somehow. So that's another application. It can be used for basically anything, either I don't know, whatever, hamsters, pets, whatever. It's there, rabbits, anything. So
Pardon me, I was on mute. What about horses? Would it be applicable also maybe for a larger farming? You mentioned farming before pigs. We had pigs, the example. So horses would be also applicable, or goats, or
of
whatever,
course, yeah,
sheep.
yeah, of course, like pig fence or horse stables, some areas for goats. We can use it on the ground itself to keep it cleaner, because when horses have some area to walk and run, where people train, typically some training grounds or whatever, we can use it there because they get pummeled a lot. They get pissed, and there is everything there. So we can treat it to prevent some fungi growth that we don't want, or some molds, or some kind of algae there that grows everywhere. So something in this way we can typically do this. So the application is anything you want. We talk about hobbies, so if you are hobby keeping 500 pigs in the pig pen, then yeah, you can use it there as well. But typically we call it a farm. Yeah, so yeah.
Absolutely. Then your what did you say? Your hobby became like a large hobby,
Yes,
large hobby.
yes, yes. I'm saying
So
that for me, my personal case is that my hobby just grew into a business, and
mhm,
I'm doing it more. Yeah. If you want to, you start with one aquarium, and maybe one day you end up with having aquaristics either online or you have some shop, and maybe chain of aquarium shops or pet stores or whatever it is, and you just you just work with that. You learn it slowly, and you find out that you can sell something, do it better, and you just do it.
and it's also solving a lot of problems that you come across yourself. Like what I said. Always fighting for the 7 years every time the same problem. And with bacteria, you have just this solution. And for us, of course, with Frogeex, it's always interesting to exchange these chemical toxical elements with natural based solutions. So this is what we are ultimately interested in. So this is why bioremediation and bacteria is so interesting for us. Now, we were talking also about like health, quality, better conditions for animals. Are there any studies that eventually would show or have some indications around improving health or maybe some special diseases that you can eliminate with using bacteria?
That's a good question. Uh, we we are not selling a pharmaceutical products, which means we don't sell pharmaceuticals or medicaments or medicine. Yeah, in general, that's a different thing. But that means we cannot say we can treat this illness with this. We can prevent spread of illnesses because when you have a clean environment, it's difficult to spread a disease in such a place. So what we do is we prevent embeddings for either it's a hobby level, farm size, whatever, industrial size. We can prevent most, I would say 90% of diseases and pests because pests are typically attracted to some kind of smell, rotting, smell of rotting, what I don't want to say rotting flesh, but rotting something, just there's some kind of feces or whatever. It may be rotting flesh as well when you have some dead whatever birds or fish in a lake or pond. Immediately after something dies and it is dead, for sure, the bacteria will eat it. They will not attack living organisms. So we start to decompose whatever there is to be decomposed whenever it just comes available for us. So you don't typically, you don't find a dead fish in a second, yeah, because you have to look for it somehow or whatever. Uh, Snails will start to eat it, some shrimps will start to eat it, that's fine, but they also produce some waste out of it, yeah. So until they eat it, it gets rotten typically. So to prevent the rot, we use bacteria, so they start to eat it again as well, let's say. In the beddings, there is a lot of feces, there is a lot of stuff, so we prevent fungi growth. Fungi are causing a tremendous amount of diseases. The rot itself causes tremendous amount of diseases. For example, from chemical part, when we have a stable, when there is something rotting already, it makes ammonia. Ammonia is produced along with this kind of process, and before it and whatever. Whenever something is not decomposed properly, ammonia is leaking out. It's a gas. It's leaking out. It causes unbelievable problems with respiratory, I don't know how to say it now, yeah, system, uh, and to prevent the spread of ammonia, to turn this nitrogen into some different form of nitrogen that doesn't smell, it doesn't cause any harm, is very important for us. So we prevent disease in such a way as well. Yeah, so that's again example of what I'm talking about. Clean environment
Mhm.
makes a big difference.
Yeah, the prevention is usually, the best choice that you can make. If you're
Yeah.
aware of the risks and you can assess and you have, this capacity to work on that. And
Yes.
because we're also like short in time or rather shortly closing, maybe we can just close this session on the topic today with some kind of recommendation. So for animal owners or pet owners or even people then that have aquariums, what would be your recommendation if we can generalize it like this? Maybe you just choose one of the groups that I mentioned right now. Um, what would be like your recommendation on how to maybe start, or what are the indications or limitations also to use bacteria in their project? If you would like to do it in like three, four
Yeah,
tips, yeah, because
this
I can
is
imagine it's a
to start. You just start. That's it. There's nothing else to say. You just want to use it. You can. It's harmless to animals and to living organisms, so you can use it anywhere.
Mhm.
I don't know what kind of branding is behind it or what kind of some research was done, but we typically advise on most of our products to use them in freshwater aquariums as we don't have it tested in saltwater, but we have some products that are tested in saltwater, in sea,
Mhm.
and in ocean. It did nothing to anything because it has no way to harm anyone. The
Mhm.
problem of saltwater bacteria, or it's the same bacteria, typically they just live in water, yeah, but their effectivity might be reduced by, let's say, 20%, maybe something around it. And that's basically the only problem there. But I know people are scared to use it in saltwater environment, as it is very expensive to create such an environment and keep it somehow maintaining it. It takes a lot of money, much more than anything else. That's the main motivation. People are afraid typically, so there is some kind of fear, yeah, behind it. But there's it's all typically without something there. So yeah, these things work.
Mhm.
And what was the final question? What was the first point?
Yeah, if there are any limitations for applying bacteria, like
Okay,
when maybe it's not the best idea to do it.
yes. So limitations are we need humidity or water, so we just don't take some, I don't know, some dried ground in a dry heap when there is no rain for a month, for example, and spread it there and expect the outcome. Yeah? We have to use it in humid environment. We were talking about this in the farming session, that how we use the paddings to put it directly into the land to make it more fertile, to make it to increase the potential to catch water, keep it there, maintain some humidity or whatever. We need to maintain humidity. We need to maintain water or whatever source of water, somehow there. So yeah, that's the limitation, I would say, humidity and water.
Great. So with this, I would say that was it for today for the bioremediation session on hobby. If you would have any questions, please reach out to Philip. You have his name on the side, or we will drop it again in the comments, so you can reach out to him. Again, there is a free consultation available, so highly encourage you to do so. Thank you so much, Philip. First of all, to you being here, sharing with us, and look out for more. We're gonna have the next session coming up already next week, so there will be something more to learn about bacteria.
Yes, thank you so much for having me here today again, and yeah, looking for the next week as well.
Have a great rest of the day and a great rest of the week too. Bye bye. See
Thank
you
you.
soon.